evening. We have two gentlemen that have expressed interest of running in 2021. One is hoping to stand on the Patriotic Front ticket. That's Mr. Yossi Miti. And the other is the leader of the opposition, Patriots for Economic Progress, Mr. Enock Tembo. Sir, good evening and welcome to Blunt Talk.
Good evening, Tewa, and a very good evening to the viewers out there.
Let me just give you the rules of Blunt Talk. So you have up to 3 minutes to answer a question that I will pose to you. Should the other guest join us during the time that one is speaking, the other cannot interrupt. As you heard in my introduction, it's an interactive program. We get to open up the phone line. Now, our viewers only have 1 minute and 15 seconds in order for them to make their submission. So during a phone call, the trio of us will keep quiet in order to accommodate that. President Tembo, are you comfortable with the rules?
Yes, we can proceed.
Okay, so let's start, first of all, with the most generic question. How do you describe the state of governance in this nation amidst COVID-19? And the 3 minutes, sir, start now.
Well, if I was to describe the state of governance in this country using one word, I would say it is deplorable. And I use that word very sparingly. The reason I say the state of governance in this country is deplorable is because of a number of factors. First of all, when you look at governance, there are a number of variables that constitute governance. And key among them is the economic governance of a nation, how the economy is basically run. And then you have the adherence to the rule of law, that is complying with the laws of the land. And then you have another aspect of governance, which is basically the strength of institutions of governance. And when we talk about institutions of governance, we are talking about institutions such as the courts of law, institutions such as the law enforcement agencies, and various other institutions. So when you look at these three facets of governance, first of all, if we were to look at the economic governance of this country, I think it is beyond debate that our economy has been on a downward spiral for a long time. And basically, government is struggling to pay salaries of employees. Employees such as council workers, you find that workers go for months. If you talk about Chipata City Council, for example, they have gone for almost 9 months without salaries. And various other, employees of government agencies who have gone for a prolonged period of time without salaries. Now, salaries are a very basic component of the obligations, the financial obligations of government. So when government fails to pay salaries, then obviously the economy cannot be claimed to be doing well, regardless of the fact that they might be borrowing some money to put up some infrastructure projects. And when you look at the issue of adherence to the rule of law, you find that there's a total breakdown in the rule of law in this country, where laws only apply to the opposition and other ordinary citizens, and those who belong to the Patriotic Front are considered to be above the law. They can go and undertake campaigns in the middle of COVID. They can attack their political opponents in the middle of Cairo Road without any repercussions whatsoever. So there's a total breakdown in the rule of law. When you look at institutions of governance, such as law enforcement agencies, you realize that despite the fact that our various law enforcement agencies are usually very competent if they act independently, they are usually under the instructions of the ruling party. They are never given a chance to act independently. And that is why you find that the law applies differently to individuals that are affiliated to the government compared to those that are not. So at the end of the day, when you summarize that, the state of governance in this country is deplorable. And I think it has never reached this low in the history of this country. Of course, we've had bad governments in the past, but this particular government is exceptional in the manner that it has really dragged our governance to the lowest levels possible in this region of Africa.
Your 3 minutes are up. This is Blunt Talk, the fearless debate, stating it as it is. We are joined in by the PEP president, who also is an aspirant for the office come 2021. Now, in the light of your aspiration, first of all, let me just get this on record. Do you still intend to contest in 2021?
Well, I think that is a foregone conclusion, Chateau.
There was recently announced the new nomination fees by the Electoral Commission of Zambia as they are mandated by law. What is your reaction to the proposed fees?
Well, for us, we don't have a problem with the proposed fees. I think they are acceptable. They are okay. Of course, we commiserate with those who are complaining against these nomination fees, those who claim that they are too high, especially for presidential. But we believe that, you know, when you're aspiring for president, you need to have a support base. And your supporters are the ones who are supposed to organize money for you to stand. If you cannot inspire enough people to mobilize, is it 150,000 or 100,000 now, then clearly you are not a serious political party and you are not a serious political candidate, and you have no reason to be on the ballot. We don't want each and every, you know, James and Peter to be on the ballot, because then the ballot paper is going to be 10 meters long, and I think that is going to be retrogressive, because at the end of the day, people will struggle to identify the candidates they want to vote for. If you have a 10-meter long ballot paper, or if you make it into a booklet, if you have a 20-page ballot paper for presidential candidates, people will struggle to find their preferred candidates. So the preferred number of presidential candidates on a ballot is about a maximum of 5. And given the fact that, you know, this country, our economy is not doing very well, so a lot of people see politics as a source of living. If the nomination fee for presidential candidates was made to be very low, let's say 20 or 30 or 50,000, we are likely to have 30 or 50 candidates on the ballot paper, which in my view is retrogressive. However, when you look at parliamentary candidates, as well as local government candidates, our view is that given the fact that most of these candidates pay their own nomination fees, it is not their party that pays for them, and also given the poor performance of the economy, for parliamentary and local government only, not including presidential, but parliamentary and local government only, the nomination fees could have been maintained at 2016 levels. So, Chateau, basically that is our view on the nomination fees.
Some people have said the proposed nomination fees, even after the revision, they say they would deny certain people their right to participate. It's like now we are trying to say that politics is only for the rich.
Well, for you to aspire to be a candidate, a presidential candidate, there are certain minimum requirements that you need to meet. For example, you need to have a certain number of supporters. Is it 100 from each province? Which means you must have a national representation. So if the idea is to accommodate each and every Peter and James who wants to stand as president, then it can also be argued that even the issue of having minimum supporters should be scrapped, and that even if you don't have a single supporter, you should also be on the presidential ballot. We are going to be, you know, a laughingstock in the region. Unless we want to turn our country into a laughingstock, there is need to ensure that we put minimum requirements for presidential candidates, so that only serious candidates actually end up on the ballot paper. It's not about segregation. It's about having minimum requirements. It's the same thing when you are shortlisting people for a job such as chief executive officer for an organization. There are minimum requirements. They will say you need to have a degree, or you need to have 5 years experience. No one can come and say, no, that requirement of a degree, that requirement of 5 years experience is discriminatory. It simply, you know, sieves people who are capable, people who are suitable for the position. So the issue of a nomination fee for presidential candidates, in our view, it's appropriate. I think it's appropriate. We don't have a problem with it.
All right. Going into 2021, a lot of people are saying that the current party in government cannot easily be removed if opposition were to go at it alone. Have you made any considerations to partner with other people? You were once in the alliance, that we do remember, but we are living at different times. Have you made any decisions to partner? First of all, do you even agree with the notion that the Patriotic Front are headed for victory unless the opposition were to somehow merge?
Well, I don't agree with those sentiments, Chatewa. However, it would be good for the opposition to actually unite and basically be able to, provide a consolidated front. But not necessarily for the purpose of defeating the Patriotic Front per se, but to ensure that you have a collection of competent people. Because when people have got their individual parties, there will be certain brilliant individuals in one political party. Maybe in the Patriots for Economic Progress, there will be some brilliant people. There will be some brilliant people in the UPND, in NDC, in NAREP. So when you come together, you ensure that you have a wider collection of brilliant minds who can help to, take this country forward. So for us as Patriots for Economic Progress, the only reason that we aspire to unite with other opposition is to ensure that we can create a bigger pool of minds to be better able to deliver on the aspirations of the Zambian people. When you talk about defeating the Patriotic Front, of course, at the end of the day, the PF have to be kicked out of office. The PF have underperformed. The PF have not only underperformed, but literally destroyed this country from whichever angle you look at it, whether it is the economy, whether it is rule of law, whether it is institutions of governance. They have destroyed this country. But for us, we've never subscribed to the idea of kicking out or changing government just for the sake of changing government. We believe that what the people of Zambia need is to ensure that we remove this bad government and we put into place a better government. If you remember what happened in 2011, we removed the MMD government, which was a bad government, and then we ended up replacing the MMD government, which was a bad government, with the current PF government, which is a worse government. So if you look at it, it is possible that we can repeat the mistake that we made in 2011, where we removed a bad government and replaced it with a worse government. And so that is why we have always emphasized to say the main objective should not be to change government for the sake of changing government, but to ensure that we replace a bad government with a better government. And when you talk about a better government, the question is, how do you measure the potential?
Yes, I was gonna come to that question. You have read my script.
Yes.
Aforehand.
Yes.
How do we, the Zambian people, measure that? Okay, this is going to be better. If I were to borrow your words,
the signs are there, Chateau. If I'm aspiring to run a government, I'm aspiring to be president of this country, and I'm saying that the way the PF are running government is not good, they are not competent, or they don't have a proper vision for this country, the first thing that I must do, and the first thing that the Zambian people need to demand from me, is for me to provide my alternative vision for this country, isn't it?
Yes.
For me to provide my alternative policies for this country, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes. So from those alternative policies, the people of this country can then subject those alternative policies to detailed scrutiny, to assess, to say how viable are these policies? Can they be implemented? Or it is mere rhetoric? But there has to be something on the table. There has to be documented alternative policies. There has to be a documented alternative vision to the vision you are saying is bad, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes. So when you look at
one will argue with you there, President Tembo, that they said talk is cheap.
Yes, that is why we are saying documented.
Okay.
Yes, we are not saying verbal or oral. No, we are saying documented, because when something is documented, you can then be able to peruse it, and you can say, Mr. Enock Tembo, on page 63 of your alternative national development plan for this country, you said that you are going to turn around the agriculture sector by doing ABCD. how is that going to work? How are you going to grow the agro-processing sector? How are you going to ensure that there is adequate local participation in that agro-processing sector that you grow? So it is easier to hold people accountable to documented alternative policies. And Chatewa, as well as the Zambian people out there, I want to emphasize that in terms of the ability to develop and present alternative policies, alternative visions for this country, our party, the Patriots for Economic Progress, is the only opposition political party in this country, only opposition political party in this country that has been consistently and continuously developing alternative national budgets. And not only alternative national budgets, but also alternative national development plans. So we basically we start with the alternative national development plan, and then every year we derive our alternative national budgets from the alternative national development plan. And these documents, we have been doing that since 2016 when we registered ourselves on the 15th of October 2016. And when we produce these alternative budgets, we basically ensure that all key stakeholders are given a copy. So you are talking about church mother bodies, you are talking about Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Commerce, Trade and Industry, Parliament, as well as the opposition political parties. We share with them. As we don't believe that if we share our ideas with our opponents, they are going to steal them and adopt them as their own. We don't believe in that. You know why we don't believe in that?
No.
Because we believe that there is no competence in the opposition political parties, including the ruling party, that would be able to steal those ideas and paraphrase them and understand them and implement them.
So in other words, you're saying that the documents that you produce, only you do understand them. The others can't.
Of course, for us to produce them, we have to understand them. But if someone is going to steal a document, they can't steal the document and just change the cover page. They would have to paraphrase it, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So what we are saying is that they don't have the competency needed to do that. They can't do that because we would catch them. They would have to book lift entire paragraphs, and then we'll say, but that paragraph, including the grammatical error there, is the same as our document. So you have pirated our document. You understand?
Yes.
So that is what it was. So now, people always ask, Chatewa, sorry, people always ask to say, but what value do those alternative national budgets actually add? I'm sure you are going to ask a similar question.
Yes.
The value that they add is that they give the various policymakers out there alternative solutions to the problems that are besieging the country. I'll give you an example. And the government has been adopting components of our alternative national budget and our alternative national development plans. I'll give you one of the things that the government has adopted. Starting from 2016 and 2017, we have been emphasizing the need to liquidate the ever accumulating domestic arrears. We have been arguing to say, look, these domestic arrears, this is money that you owe domestic suppliers of goods and services. People who supplied meal meal to schools, people who supplied meal meal to boarding schools, to hospitals, medicines to hospitals, stationery to ministries. These people, you have not been paying them for years, and this amount is accumulating. And for as long as these people are not paid, there is no circulation, there's no money in circulation. And for as long as there is no money in circulation, then the economy is suffocating. So you need to liquidate these domestic arrears. We have been advocating for it. And so 2016, we really advocated for that in our alternative national budget. 2017, we did the same. 2018, we did the same. And you know what? When you look at the official budget for 2020, you realize that for the first time in the history of Zambia, the first time, the Minister of Finance put a specific line in the official budget for liquidating domestic arrears. Yes. And our view is that that was basically in answer to our call to say, can you please liquidate or make an effort to liquidate these domestic arrears? In addition to that, when we've been submitting our alternative national budgets to Parliament, the Parliament of Zambia, for the past 4 years or so. And I'm sure they'll just file it and shove it in the drawer somewhere, which doesn't bother us. Provided we submit to various institutions, what they do with our alternative national budgets is entirely up to them. But in the 2020 alternative national budget, when we submitted it to Parliament, the Speaker of the National Assembly ordered that our alternative national budget be circulated to all members of Parliament. That was the first time that that happened, and it was the first time that an alternative policy document from an opposition political party was circulated to all members of Parliament. So, from our standpoint,
for possible debate.
Yes, for possible debate. From our standpoint, you know, at the end of the day, when you are confident in what you are doing, and you have a clear mind to say what you are doing is the right thing, you are not derailed by people who might, you know, naysayers, people who might come forward and try to undermine what you do or try to cast aspersions on what you do. So we are never derailed by that. So my point, Chatewa, is that us, in the Patriots for Economic Progress, are the only competent, or maybe let me qualify that statement. We are the only proven competent political party. There might be other political parties which are competent like us out there, but they haven't proven themselves. Mm-hmm. For us, we have proven ourselves by developing alternative national budgets, by developing alternative national development plans, not verbally, not where you go on radio and you talk about issues, or not where you go and write a book, which is a story, but us, we've produced tangible documents which are available on our website.
But isn't a book also a document? Just a longer document? Why would you call other people's books just stories?
No, that's not the point. The point is that it has to be a kind of document that is clear. If you are going to provide an alternative budget, for example, for this country, you need to put in the figures. Government has allocated 2 billion to social cash transfer. How much are you allocating to social cash transfer? You need to put a figure. You can't just write a story. A story cannot be quantified. And what cannot be quantified cannot be measured. For us, when we produce alternative policy documents, whether it's an alternative national development plan or it is an alternative national budget, there are clear figures there. And not only are there clear figures there, we actually do a comparative analysis of the official budget in one column and our alternative national budget in another column, and then you have a column for differences between the official and the alternative. And then we provide explanations of why why we propose something different. For example, government will allocate maybe 8 billion to the local government stabilization fund. And then for us, we'll say, no, we are allocating 0 there. And we'll explain why we are allocating 0 to local government stabilization fund. We'll be saying, look, these local authorities, they have a lot of potential to generate income. They can charge for billboards, they collect land rates, and land rates are very expensive, Chateau. They collect land rates, they collect personal levy, they have so many income streams. So the question is, why should the central government get money that is collected by ZRI to go and subsidize a council when a council has so many revenue streams? That is totally out of order. So what we advocate for is that you need to make these local authorities to become self-reliant. Okay. They need to be sustainable.
Okay. I'm going to open up the phone lines in just a moment. The number will be on your screen here in order for you to be able to participate on this edition of Blunt Talk. Our guest is Mr. Enock Tembo, the president of PEP. We're hoping that Mr. Miti would join us as well, because this, as a matter of fact, is a debate. Let me draw your attention to what is trending right now, which we cannot ignore, albeit it scares us because it's actually taking human life, and that's the issue of COVID-19. How do you think, you were talking about alternatives, how do you rate how the current administration has handled this pandemic?
I think it has been very poor. On a scale of 1 to 10, I would give them possibly a 3 out of 10.
That's a fail?
Yes.
So you actually are of the idea that
totally.
They have failed to handle COVID? They
have totally failed.
Okay.
You know, Chateau, every time I talk about COVID-19, I always emphasize the fact that, no government could have foreseen this COVID-19 pandemic. So, of course, in evaluating the response of government, you need to bear that in mind to say they could not have foreseen it, and it came as, like a thief in the night. It came as a surprise. However, there are certain basic things that we should have done right. Certain basic things.
Like
ensuring seriousness in the fight against COVID-19 from the top leadership. When I say top leadership, I mean President Lungu and his cabinet. There has been no seriousness there. A case in point is where the Minister of Health, Dr. Chirufya, decided to get his cadres from, is it Mansa or wherever it is he got them from, to the magistrate's court. You understand? Those cadres were not wearing any masks. Those cadres were not practicing any social distancing. Those cadres were crowded. And even the minister himself was not wearing a mask. And he is a minister of health. You understand? A minister of health. And then in another breath, the following day, he's appearing on TV and telling people to avoid the crowds and to wear masks all the time. Meanwhile, the following day, people saw him doing the opposite. How can the Zambian people take such a man serious? How can the Zambian people take such a man serious? That's the question. So if the leadership at the top are not leading by example, then you cannot blame people, the citizens on the ground, if they are not taking your messages in the fight against COVID-19 seriously. That is number one. Lack of seriousness at the high level of government in terms of the fight against COVID-19. Point number two, failure to account for COVID funds. For us in the Patriots for Economic Progress, we have always advocated for the fact that you need to account for the donations that actually are made towards the fight against COVID-19 so that you can be able to attract more donations. If you remember about 2 days ago, the Minister of Health was complaining that people have stopped donating. He was also complaining that those who had made pledges are not keeping the pledges. The reason for that is there is no accountability for the COVID-19 funds. And when we talk about accountability, we are not asking for a lot. We are not asking for a lot of complicated, expensive procedures, no. We are simply asking for a detailed, publishing a detailed list of people who have donated and the amounts that they have donated. So if you, Chatewa, you have donated 2,000 kwacha, we want to see in the newspaper or on the Ministry of Health website, Mr. Chatewa Dominic, 2,000 kwacha. If I donate 100 kwacha, I should see my name there, Mr. Enock Tembo, 100 kwacha, so that we can add up everything that has been donated, and then we also need to know how much has been spent and for what. You understand? That is transparency. And I'll give you a few examples. If you go on the Ministry of Health website of Kenya, the list is there. You can log in, and there's even a button for donation. So you see a detailed list of people who have donated, and the total donated, as well as how much has been spent and what it has been spent on. Even Zimbabwe, their Ministry of Health website, it's very comprehensive. But us, people just want to disclose block figures. Last time
what is your reaction when the Honorable Minister of, Honorable Vincent Mwale, I forget which ministry he's heading now, did make mention that some of the COVID money will go towards road development?
Yeah. Before I deal with that matter, because that's another topic, it's the economic aspect of this fight against COVID-19. So I'll come to that, if you allow me. I'll come to that. So my point is that if there's no accountability, and we know that there is a history in this PF government of failing to account for donated funds, then it becomes a problem. There's a case in point of City Market. When City Market bent down, a lot of people donated. I personally donated about 8,000 kwacha towards the reconstruction of City Market. And up to now, City Market remains unreconstructed. The question is, where is the money? Where is people's donations? Similarly, in 2018, there was an appeal in the fight against the cholera outbreak. You remember when we turned the Heroes Stadium into a cholera center? A lot of people, stepped forward and donated. I also donated about 2,000 kwacha. But that money, there was no accountability again. And people complained to say, where is this money going? So when there's no accountability for donations, just know that people are not going to proceed and donate because they don't want to donate money, and then you get that money, you go and build lodges or hotels in Mansa or wherever it is you want to go and build those hotels. We want that money to be used for the fight against COVID-19. So that is the point. Now, coming to your question about the economic impact of COVID-19 and how government has managed that. If you look at the interventions that government has made so far economically in the fight against COVID-19, it is basically twofold. On one hand, there was that amnesty for tax penalties and interest announced by ZRA as part of contribution to the economy to try and ameliorate the hardships of economic hardships of COVID-19, which in my view was something that was totally misdirected because someone wants help there. They are running a Kama school and the schools are closed. They can't pay teachers. They can't pay rent. They want actual help. Now you are talking about waiving tax penalties and interest. That Kama school probably is current on its taxes, so it doesn't need to pay penalties or interest. So you are just benefiting multinationals and not the common man in the street. The other aspect of government's economic intervention to ameliorate the impact of COVID-19 was the Bank of Zambia 10 billion fund, which was being, lent out to commercial banks. Again, there is no trickle-down effect of that 10 billion which Bank of Zambia was lending out to commercial banks to the common man on the street, because those commercial banks will get that money at a cheap rate of 12.5% and then proceed to lend to you and me at their usual commercial rates, which is 43, 48%. So you are just helping the commercial banks to make supernormal profits. How does that help in the fight against COVID-19? So all interventions that were made economically by government so far were falling far short of what can be, described as, a relief package, an economic relief package. Because relief, Chatewa, the very word, relief, it means you are undergoing a hardship and you need to be assisted, isn't it?
Yes.
Now, if you are going to lend money to a commercial bank, and when that commercial bank has to lend to a business that has been affected by COVID, they use the same criteria for evaluating whether to give that business a loan or not. Criteria such as, is your turnover going up or going down? Criteria such as, what is your profitability? How can you be profitable when you've closed your lodge, or you've closed your school, or you've closed your cinema, and the banks are looking at profitability? If you do not meet that set criteria, then they decline your loan. Then you call that a relief package. How can that be a relief package when you are not helping people who are in stress, who are in distress? So the PF government, Chatewa, is a very haphazard government. They are so inherently incompetent that you even wonder what it is they talk about when they're in their cabinet meetings. Because, in any grouping, you do expect maybe one or two individuals to have some bit of sense and try to add sense to the meeting.
Kindly hold on to your thought. We have a caller. Hi, good evening. You're through to Blunt Talk.
Hello?
Hi, good evening. You're through to Blunt Talk.
Yes, thank you. I chose to remain anonymous. I wanted to hear my views on the topic of what is currently on.
Where are you calling us from, Anonymous?
I'm calling you from the east.
Okay, please go ahead.
Yes, truly I want to agree with the president there that this government has no heart for the Zambian people, not even a bit. And truly we wonder what they discuss when they go to sit the cabinet meeting. Because looking at the way many people in this country are suffering, looks like the people that we've given
right, Anonymous, thank you very much. That's just about the time we could accommodate you. 0978594682 is the number to dial. And if you're calling us from outside the country, it's +260 978-594-682. And you will be through to our program. I'll be reading out some of the messages that you are sending us, those of you that are following us live on Facebook, as well as those that are following us on the MTN Plus app. This is the Fearless Debate, and this is Blunt Talk. So let's continue and also look at other issues that are happening in this country. How do you describe the political landscape in this country in 3 minutes?
Political landscape is a very wide word, Chateau.
I would want you to look at it from the perspective of the political playing ground,
okay,
as one of the parameters, and okay, then also since every day takes us closer to the 12th of August.
Well, I think that's fine. We can talk about that. For us as Patriots for Economic Progress, when we started our party, we set certain targets for ourselves, and of course we had the 5-year strategy in terms of which culminates into our overall performance in 2021, and then we have the annual operational plans of the activities we want to achieve, and certain milestones we need to attain at specific intervals. I would say that speaking for ourselves, we are very much on course in terms of what our targeted objectives are. First of all, we are a new party, and you might be aware of the fact that for us, our party is made up of totally new entrants. It's not made up of individuals who are former ministers, who are already known by the people, or former this or former that. No, it's made up of totally new people, fresh people, so to say. So it needed a bit of time and effort for people to get to know us, and for people to get to know what we stand for, what we can do for this country. And we needed to create structures on the ground. I'm happy to mention, Chatewa, that as at, I think, end of March, we had created structures, grassroots structures at ward level in about 80% of all the districts across the country. And our approach is to create grassroots structures and then start going upwards. So the people we see performing very well at ward level are the people that we consider for the constituency level. And then the people we see performing well at constituency level are the ones we consider at district level, and then just like that, up to provincial level. So we have a top-down approach in terms of growing our structures, which is different from our colleagues who prefer a top-down approach. In terms of membership, about 6 or 5 weeks ago, we crossed the 500,000 membership mark. And we are very happy of those achievements because, for us, we have a membership fee for our members. So when someone registers to be a PEP member, we know that they are serious because they are willing to pay a membership fee. And it is out of those membership fees that we are able to retain some resources which we intend to use in 2021 for mobilization, for activities such as paying the nomination fees for the presidential candidate and other related, election expenses. Other attributes is, of course, there are a lot of challenges. As we speak right now, this COVID-19 has really affected our mobilization activities. I don't know if you are aware, we recently launched our campaign song, Niwamsegede Turefire. We launched our campaign song, that was about 2 months ago. And we were supposed to go to provincial centers to launch this song because we started the launch in Lusaka. And we have not been able to do that because of COVID-19. But we are still, resorting to alternative ways of mobilizing. Instead of meeting as large groups, we task our members to say each member of the party is required to recruit 2 new members per month. So they have the entire month to recruit 2 new members. And at the end of the month, they bring the 2 members they've recruited. And those 2 new members are required to recruit 2 new members as well. So the party is growing very well, Chatewa, and we're very happy.
You talked about, just when you were talking there, you mentioned that you have a membership fee.
Yes.
Others actually pay people to join their parties.
Yes, yes.
You're working the other way. And now, to take you back to something that you had made mention of when we were talking about the economic management of COVID, how transparent and how accountable is PEP in terms of the monies that you're collecting? You're talking about more than 500,000 people.
We are very, very accountable. So what happens is that at the end of every financial year, in fact, on a quarterly basis, we have the National Organizing Committee meeting. Our top decision-making structure is called the National Organizing Committee, what other political parties would call a central committee. Yes, or a national management committee for other opposition parties. Us is called the National Organizing Committee, the Enock. So we have those meetings, and then we share with our membership through our website, www.pepzambia.org. So all the financial statistics are there, how much we've accumulated. I must mention, Chatewa, that we spend less than 5% of our total corrections in a given year. So when you correct, let's say 100 kwacha, we keep 95 kwacha and we only spend 5 kwacha. And the whole idea is that, you know, when you look at it from a financial point of view, when we go to 2021, it's most likely that the so-called larger political parties, like the PF and the UPND, will have more financial resources than us. You understand? So for us to be able to have an impact in the 2021 general elections, we must ensure that we are able to keep our resources and spend our resources at the same point, at the same time, so that we have the greatest value for our resources. We create the biggest impact, as opposed to us spending as we generate the income, and then we get to 2021, we don't have enough in our coffers. So we are very, very prudent in our utilization of resources.
Do you think going into 2021, you will have enough resources to field in candidates across the country? Because if you are vying for president, you might want also to have
our strategy,
members of parliament.
Our strategy, Chatewa, is not to field candidates in each and every constituency. Assuming delimitation does not take place, we don't intend to field candidates in all the 156 constituencies. What we did from the very beginning in 2016 was to identify constituencies where we stand a better chance of winning. And we identified a total of 82 constituencies. So we are only fielding candidates in 82 constituencies. And these are predominantly urban and peri-urban constituencies. Because, you know, politics in rural areas is a whole different ballgame. You know, you're talking about huge expanses of land. You travel 100 kilometers and only meet 10 people. You understand? Whereas if you wake up tomorrow and drive around Lusaka, you can meet 3 million people in a single day. You understand? So our priority for now is urban and peri-urban voters. And those 82 constituencies that we identified are in those locations. And our view is that even if we don't win 2021, Chatewa, we are confident that we are going to walk away with a significant number of members of parliament, a significant number of local government representatives. We are looking at tentatively, you know, 30, 40 MPs, because even in the areas that we are going to field candidates, we have done substantive work on the ground. You know, people always believe that during an election time, you need to spend huge amounts of money. Yes, you need to spend huge amounts of money if you are buying political support. You understand? I can assure you, Chatewa, that each one of these 2 big political parties, during campaign time, when they are organizing rallies, because I've attended both their rallies on a number of occasions, you have a rally in Zingarume there. And these people, it's a big party, a so-called big party, which is aspiring to win the elections, but they can't fill that Zingarume stadium. They have to bring people from Kafue, bring people from Mazabuka, from Monze, to fill that small ground at Zingarume. The same applies to the PF. They would hold a rally at Mandevo grounds there. And they will bring people from Chongwe, bring people from everywhere. And these people are being ferried by bus, just to fill that, that small ground. You know what that tells you? It tells you that people don't have an appetite for that political party. Me, when MMD was coming into power in 1991, I was staying in Mtendere, B section of Mtendere. And I was a young man by that. And when there's a rally, for example, there was a rally by Chiruva at Pop Square near Pakra there. You know, first of all, the neighbors who had vehicles, they carried everybody who is going to the rally. Those who could not fit in the vehicles walked. We walked from Tendere there to Pop Square. And unfortunately enough, that day, it was raining heavily. It rained heavily. And we were all there waiting, listening to various MMD leaders, including Chiruva, speak. You understand? What that shows you is commitment. So for us, we are building a movement. We are building a movement of committed citizens who are committed to our vision for this country. And these committed citizens are willing to, sacrifice a 60 kwacha per year to pay a membership fee. They are also willing to find their own means of transport to come and attend our rally without having to send buses to pick them up, without having to give them my 50 kwacha after the rally, the way these other so-called bigger political parties do. So for us, we might appear to be growing at a slower pace, but it's a sustainable approach.
Okay, hold on. 0978-594-682 is the number to dial. 0978-594-682. That's the number that you are dialing. We are almost coming to the end of our interaction right here on a Monday, and our topic, as you can see, is the state of governance amid COVID-19. News that has come out, President Tembo, today, the Bank of Zambia has issued what they have referred to as the COVID bond. You've heard the figures, you've heard the tenures that are available, and the conditions that they have put towards that. What is your take on the matter?
Well, the bottom line, Chatewa, when BOZ issues a bond on behalf of government, the bottom line is that it's government which is borrowing. Now, there are so many types of bonds. In terms of tenure, you have the 15-year bonds, 20-year bonds, you have the 5-year bonds, 7-year bonds, you have the 2-year bonds. Bonds which are less than 12 months are referred to as treasury bills. The bottom line is that you are borrowing. It doesn't matter what you call that bond. They can call it a Chatewa Dominic bond, or call it a COVID bond, or call it a Enock Tembo bond. It doesn't matter the name attributed to it. The bottom line is that the government is borrowing. And so the issue at hand is not really the COVID bond, but the fact that government decided to go on the market and borrow some more. Now, it might interest you, Chatewa, as well as the viewers out there, that between July of 2019 and December of 2019, our domestic debt, in terms of government bonds and treasury bills, shot up by about 33%, from about 60 billion kwacha to about 80 billion kwacha. You understand? That is 33% in 5 months. Now, that should worry every citizen of this republic, because that is not sustainable borrowing. It is not sustainable borrowing. You cannot increase your national debt by 33% within 5 months. Now, this year, I haven't monitored the statistics yet, but I know that the government wanted to issue a 10 billion so-called COVID bond, and I know that the subscription rate was about 70% or so, 60 to 70%, which means they raised about 6 to 7 billion kwacha. The bottom line is that government is borrowing. And there's everything wrong with government borrowing, because the reason why the economy is not doing well right now is because government has overborrowed. And therefore, whatever little money that ZRA collects, whatever little money that NRIFA collects at the toll gates is channeled not to developmental projects, but towards servicing of our current debt. And when I talk about servicing, I'm not talking about liquidating the principal amount. I'm talking about just being able to keep up with the interest payments. So we are cycling at the same point over and over. We are not making progress. And since government does not have any money to spend on infrastructure projects, and since we are nearing elections, they feel the pressure to be seen to have worked by pointing at some infrastructure projects. What has been happening is that the government then goes out there to borrow for infrastructure projects, yes, which increases your total obligations to service these debts. So we are on a slippery slope, Chatewa. It's a very sad scenario that we're in. And
is there hope in sight? Is there hope in sight? You
know, the only way we can turn around our situation is for government to cut down on expenditure. They should cut down on expenditure and cease additional borrowing. Once they've seized the additional borrowing, then they need to begin to approach our lenders and ask for some of the loans to be restructured. When I say restructured, I mean to increase the tenure of the loans so that the repayments can come down, can be slightly lower, or negotiate the interest rates on these loans. You know, we have a perfect excuse to use. We have COVID-19. And we can point to clear financial statistics to say, look, we are not able to collect as much money from our borders through ZRA because the traffic has come down, and therefore we can't sustain these repayments. We need to reschedule these dates. So it would be easy to actually restructure those loans. But we saw that, I saw an article in the paper the other day where President Lungu was saying that he had spoken to Xi Jinping, the president of China, about debt cancellation. You know, Chatewa, issues of debt cancellation is not something that you do over the phone. You need to fly there, go there, sit down, face to face.
COVID, they'll tell you.
No, people still travel. People still travel. For emergency travel, you can go there. You wear masks, you maintain social distancing, you look Xi Jinping in the eyes and tell him, can you please write off some of our debts? That way, your request is likely to have more consideration. Because, Chatewa, even in personal lives, ngatufuna ukongola ndalama. Sunga tumile mundu phone ata nikongole second ndalama zaso naso. You are likely to be declined. But if you say mwana ateti kumanye, then you meet someone in person and say nipase ko 1 pin. Nzakubwezera next week. That person will say, let's go to the ATM. I'll give you the 1,000 kwacha.
It's unfortunate that broadcasting is the way it is. It's a time-bound activity. We have been talking to Enock Tembo, who is an aspirant for 2021 on the Patriots for Economic Progress ticket. And today we were discussing the topic, the state of governance amidst COVID-19. Thank you so very much for your time, for all that took time to watch and even participate on this very program. On behalf of my camera person and director, Obvious Kapanda, and also the entire amazing Blunt Talk crew, my name is Chatewa. I'm Yakudariseni. Pleasant viewing.
No closing remarks.
Yeah. What was that?
This is Zambia, this the nation. Yeah. Give us, give us. This is Zambia, the home of copper.